I like becoming a better listener, learning how to empathize more effectively, learning how to validate your partner's feelings, learning how to feel your feelings. Like a lot of men, we've been trained out of our feelings. So for some men, it's difficult when a woman, for example, in a heteronormative relationship is very emotional. Some men are just, they want to fix it and make it go away as soon as possible, right? And all that suggests is that man has an incredibly narrow capacity for feelings. And so the way he could get better at being with her emotional experience is to learn how to feel his own emotional experience.
Yeah! What's up, everybody? Your life alchemist, your dragon. Welcome to Alchemized Life. I'm your host, Justin David Carl. This is a show where I seek out and share expertise, wisdom, and thought leadership in all domains with the mission of empowering and inspiring you to proactively design and truly live a life worth living. We're all in this together, and when we do the work together, we go so much farther, so much faster, and have so much more fun. Without further ado, let's dig into this episode and alchemize life. Jayson Gaddis, so great to have you on the show, brother.
Thanks, Justin. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so to set the scene for the audience, I, several years ago, prior to getting married, was doing relationship coaching with my wife. And during that time, which was incredibly valuable, she sent me Jayson's work. And Jayson is, among many things, he's an author of the newer book, Getting to Zero, How to Work Through Conflict in Your High-Stakes Relationships. He's a speaker, he's an executive coach, and he is the founder of the Relationship School. And on top of all that, he has an incredible platform on YouTube and Instagram with a ton of great content. And I've been following his journey for the last several years. So I'm super excited to have him on the show, mostly because I'm about a year and a half into my marriage. And I really want to make sure that I set myself up for long-term success in my marriage. And I know that's really important to pretty much anyone who's in a long-term relationship like a marriage. So before we kind of dive into that, Jayson, I'm just curious, like, why did you go down this path? Why are you so passionate about relationships and, creating the school, creating this book? What is your driving why behind all this work that you do?
Yeah, man, because my personal story is more, I was a mess and wanted to figure this part of my life out. It's this super short story. And then also I see so many problems in the world, right? In people's homes and just out in our communities and on TV, and how we treat each other is really shitty, honestly. So I just want to contribute. I want to put a dent into the bigger problem of how we get along.
Yeah. So speaking of your book, you have the title, Getting to Zero, and it's very catchy, but what does that actually mean? What does getting to zero mean?
Yeah, zero means a good place. So getting to zero is getting back to a good place. And when we're disconnected from our partner or a close friend or a family member, it feels bad usually. And if we take a 0 to 10 scale, anything above a 0 is where we start to feel bad. We're really activated, we're triggered, we're shut down, we're disconnected. And because that feels bad, hopefully we're motivated to feel better and to take that number from a high number, like a 7, down to 0 or as close to it as we can. So my book is all about how do we get that number down, decrease the activation, work through whatever challenges we have so that we can feel connected and good again.
Yeah. So is it possible to be in a relationship and not have any conflict?
I think it's very difficult to do that. And the people that claim they do that, to me, are either bypassing or compartmentalizing. There's a lot of people, probably our parents' generation and older, would say, yeah, I've been married for 50 years and we never fight. And what they basically mean is we never deal with problems. We just don't make a big deal out of them, and we compartmentalize them, and we we've trained each other to not go there, and we've found a way to just get along, and it works for us. I don't think that leads to any kind of relationship fulfillment in life, but I think people do choose that sometimes.
Yeah. So I would say in my own relationship, there's definitely conflict. Not in a bad way, but just in a, like, we're both interested in, being human beings who have strong opinions and feelings and breakdowns and good days and bad days. And we've developed some strategies that help us kind of like move through conflict in a pretty quick manner. But, in your own work, I'm sure you have a ton of different kind of strategies, ideas, mental models, etc. Like, what are some like key strategies that one could use in their relationship when conflict does arise, say in a marriage or, just maybe even in, a pre-marriage, like as you're working towards that, because, conflicts often come before marriage, sometimes not, but usually.
Yeah, I mean, we have to start with the view, and the view means a framework, kind of a mindset that's like conflict is not a problem. That says we're going to embrace conflict when it comes. We're going to learn from it. We're going to learn about ourselves and each other, and we're going to use it, any challenges in our marriage or our partnership, as an opportunity to get stronger. So if we start with that kind of framework, we are already very inclusive of problems and challenges versus we shouldn't have any, which is kind of what pop culture promotes, is you meet the one or the right person and, la-da-da, you're like good to go for life. And I just think that's bullshit. So, we got to have a view that's like mature, adult, and accurate first. Then we can get into all kinds of tools and practices. Another one we might do is just having a couple of agreements in place that say, when we have a challenge between us, no matter how bad it is, we don't make threats and we don't run away. We can take space, but we always return and repair and get back to a good place. Because no one likes to feel shitty for more than a few days with an intimate partner. But some people, because they don't know how to get back to a good place, they sort of change the channel and do a state change. They have a couple glasses of wine and they put on their favorite Netflix show. They get some sleep and they focus on work, and pretty soon it's 4 days later and it's like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But years of that approach piled up in your nervous system and your memory, your body, is not good. That shit comes out sideways. It'll come out in the form of someone blowing a gasket, and or shutting down and getting really distant and withdrawing and punishing. So again, an agreement would be, let's deal with things as they arise. So those are a couple. I could certainly get into more if you want me to.
Yeah, no, those are some great ones. I think where I like to go next is kind of diving a little bit into attachment science. So this is newer work to me that I discovered in your book, and I was just like blown away because it made so much sense to me. And just, I think having an understanding of it gives you so much personal power, both with yourself and in the dynamic of a relationship. So could you dive into that a little bit? What is it?
So, attachment science is essentially a field of study that studies mostly the relationship between caregiver and child in early infancy. And this is you could say newer in the grand scheme of science, kind of came online in the 50s and 60s and was popularized probably more in the 90s. And it's sort of, you hear a lot of kind of more personal growth oriented parents now talk about attachment parenting, which is different than attachment science. But attachment science looked at that early relationship and started to see, and other psychotherapists, and psychiatrists, and psychologists, and scientists started to look at, this kind of parent-child dynamic shows up in adult relationships. Now, the power is different in an adult relationship. It ideally is fair and equal. Both people have equal power. Whereas a parent-child, it's more the parent has the power, right? But basically, if we come back to the parent-child relationship for a minute, it's studying under stress what happens to the child when the parent is yelling. What happens to the child when the parent is quiet? And they did an experiment called the strange situation, where the mother went away out of the lab experiment room, and the child, how distressed the child gets or got, started to indicate what kind of attachment style they had. And then the mother would come back, and how they reunited would also start to give evidence based on the child's attachment style, how close, how securely attached and safe the child felt with the parent. For example, was the baby aloof when the parent came back? Was the baby clingy? Was the baby did they just kind of, oh, hey, just kind of a head nod and went back to its play? And basically they started to see patterns. And one of the patterns, the two of the most common insecure attachment patterns they saw was that an insecure ambivalent pattern and an insecure avoidant pattern. Insecure ambivalent essentially means you grew up in a family where your parent was available to repair and reconnect and connect with you emotionally, etc., see you some of the time. And then some of the time they weren't. They gave you the silent treatment, they weren't available, they were drinking, they were whatever. And so the child gets like a mixed bag of availability from the parent. In the avoidant attachment style family, the basic download was relationships are not that reliable. The parents never really repaired. The parents basically said, go to your room, or the child just went to their room or went outside and just figured out how to soothe themselves without any parental help. So those turn into adults, the more avoidant people turn into adults who withdraw under stress, under conflict, they retreat, they get quiet, and they don't see relationships as a resource. Whereas the anxious ambivalent types are the ones in the adult relationship that are more clingy, or avoidance certainly judges them as needy, but they're just like, they get anxious. It's like, my partner withdraws and I don't like that. I feel like, hey, I want to talk about it. Come back. Like, what are you doing? And there can be a real fear of abandonment or fear of, us not getting back to a good place. And they often want to talk it out, whereas the avoidant doesn't want to talk about it. And of course, in an adult partnership like a marriage, the opposites find each other. So typically there's an anxious person and an avoidant person that find themselves under stress. And that's really normal. I just want to underscore that this is extremely normal. There's nothing wrong here. This is just how you're wired over 18 years of transmission from your parents or caregivers. And now you've got a nervous system that under stress, under relational stress in particular, you either withdraw or you move toward and get kind of anxious and want to reconnect and talk about it. And both can trigger the other person, right? So if I'm anxious, my anxiety can trigger the avoidant person. And if I'm avoidant, their anxiety can trigger me and my avoidance can trigger them. And it just gets messy, and couples kind of make each other wrong for this. And it's like, no, this shit's normal and it's fine. You just need to, smart couples kind of learn how to work with this inevitable type of dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm curious, this is really awesome. Like it's so good to paint this out, because I really want to help smash that like fairy tale view that like once you get in the perfect relationship, you'll have no problems and no conflicts.
Yeah.
Because I completely agree with you. I think that is definitely in pop culture. It's in movies, etc., TV shows. It's less so. Some shows are actually showing, kind of the more evolved dynamic of, breakdowns lead to breakthroughs. But I think, my wife would even say she initially thought like once she got with me, like everything would be solved. And then she was like, wait a minute, I'm getting way more than I thought I was bargaining for. And it's been a fun journey for us to really commit to, being like, hey, we realize that this is going to be a never-ending journey of learning, healing, and growing. And that was actually part of our marriage vows, is to always be doing the work individually and doing the work collectively. So we committed to that in our marriage vows. And then we actually, now, as of our 1-year anniversary, we renew our vows, and especially that one, so that we recommit to doing the work.
Love it.
Because there's so many different things that go on, and, maybe things are great between us, but like, there's a family member who's going through a health struggle, and it's causing a lot of stress in one of us or both of us. And then it makes us more likely to have like a conflict between us, because there's just like, we don't know where to put this energy.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, are there some other rules of engagement other than like we're committed to doing this work and that this is like part of the relationship, that you can, help me kind of suss out for myself and the relationship, that it's just going to kind of like optimize this process of breakdown and breakthrough.
Yeah, totally. Love the vows, the recommitment, and that can even turn into an agreement, right? And you can kind of modify them every year. So they're not only vows, but they're also agreements. And maybe your agreements are vows. That's fine too. But another one I like, just again, a framework that we can sort of live by, is my wife and I call standing for three, where if we think about getting married as you get kind of thrown in this boat called your relationship and you're cast out in the ocean and you're traveling through life together, you want to be in a relationship where you're both, like you said, doing the work, paddling, where we've got learning how to sail, we're bailing water out when we get a leak. We're working as a team to travel and navigate all the storms, sharks, and everything else we're going to encounter, right? So standing for three means I take a stand for me and my success and the things I want in my life and being true to myself. And I take a stand for my wife and what she wants and her success. And I want to be her like number one champion cheerleader for her success individually. And she does the same for me. And then we both take a stand for the relationship, which is the boat, if we're using the boat metaphor. And that's important because it's like not enough to, we'll just be like, well, hey, I'm just taking a stand for me. And hey, I believe in you. But it's like, well, we're off. Like, we're not in a good place. Like, you're over there doing your thing and I'm over here doing my thing and we're living parallel lives. That's not great. There's this boat called our relationship that we really need to attend to and track and repair and, just be good to. And I just like that standing for three sort of as a simple way to remember who we're standing for here. Because a lot of people, what happens is under stress, people just stand for themselves. And, or they're in the very spiritual mindset of like, hey, your triggers are your problem, my triggers are my problem. And, I'll go deal with my shit, you go deal with yours. It's like, no, like I impact you. My behavior every day in this home impacts you. So I want to be considerate of your feelings and the impact I'm having on you.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. Today's show is brought to you by Veg Nutrition. Live better. So I'm actually a Veg elite athlete, and before I joined the team, I spent months doing my due diligence to make sure that the company was vision, mission, and value aligned with me, my values, my mission, my vision, and my lifestyle. I got to know the owners super well. I even got to know the person who formulates all the products, and they passed with flying colors. So I couldn't be more excited to represent a company that I feel so aligned with. And I want to tell you about two of my favorite products. The first is the Veg pre-workout. So when I first went vegan, or mostly vegan, the last thing for me to go fully vegan was finding a vegan pre-workout that gave me the focus, the energy, and the power that I was looking for. And I can tell you, this is the best pre-workout that I've ever had. It gives me incredible focus and energy. And what's probably the best is it leaves me with no crash after I take it, which is great. And the flavors are so freaking good. There's literally peach mango and a Patriot Pop that tastes like, the firecracker popsicles, cherry lemon lime flavor. They're literally so good that I can dry scoop them. And they just released a watermelon flavor for just in time for summer, and it's incredible. So that's the first product. The second product is arguably also my favorite, and that's the plant protein. Comes in 3 incredible flavors: chocolate peanut butter, vanilla ice cream, and cold brew coffee. Yep, you heard me. Cold brew coffee flavor. It tastes incredible, all 3 flavors. 25 grams of protein, fully organic, incredible ingredients, heavy metal tested, and it is my go-to post-workout. Make sure that I'm recovering and refueling and giving my muscles the protein that they need to rebuild for that next workout. So go to vegnutrition.com/dragon and try their full line of supplements, and you'll get 15% off. Or you can just use Dragon at checkout and you'll get 15% off. So that's vegnutrition.com/dragon to get 15% off. Veg Nutrition, live better. Yeah. Couple thoughts. In my head, as you're using the boat analogy, I thought is like one person is just like standing for themselves. It's like one person rowing on one side and the boat's just going in circles.
Exactly.
And, but if both stand for themselves and the marriage, then the boat is actually being rowed in this, like an actual direction of their choosing. And
yeah, because
I think
that's right. It's well said. I mean, it could be that I'm sitting on my ass and you're in the boat rowing and we're going in a circle, or it could also be that I'm rowing and you're rowing, but we're going in. I want to go over there and you want to go over here. Again, we're just being ourselves, but we're not considering where do we want to go. Where's the we?
Yeah. Yeah, this is good. So I'm curious, what are some ways that as a partner, we can be more proactive to become a better partner for our significant other?
Yeah, lots of things we can do, but we want to, again, have the mindset and the attitude that, and remember that our choices in life impact our partner, right? If you are annoyed by that, then don't get married. I really tell people don't ever get married unless you're willing to get triggered and like learn to share and collaborate, and a lot of people don't know how to share very well and they don't know how to collaborate. So what was I saying? What was your question?
Just ways that we can become a better partner for our partner, like, and be proactive about it.
Yeah. So remember, there's impact, of course. Whatever I do, there's impact on my partner, the choices I make. I want them to feel like a top priority. My wife lets me know when she doesn't feel like a priority, and that feedback is super helpful because I can get immersed in work or my own shit or whatever, and I forget, right? So behave in ways that have the other person feeling considered. And in terms of working on yourself, I like becoming a better listener, learning how to empathize more effectively, learning how to validate your partner's feelings, learning how to feel your feelings. A lot of men, we've been trained out of our feelings. So for some men, it's difficult when a woman, for example, in a heteronormative relationship is very emotional. Some men are they want to fix it and make it go away as soon as possible, right? And all that suggests is that man has an incredibly narrow capacity for feelings. And so the way he could get better at being with her emotional experience is to learn how to feel his own emotional experience. That's what I had to do. I did years of punching pillows and crying and all sorts of stuff to increase my genuine capacity to feel my own stuff, because I was pretty jammed up as a guy prior to, working on myself. And I had to learn to feel. And once I started to learn to feel, emotions outside of me, like my kids or my wife, are less of a problem. I'm less taken out by them. I can hold space. I can be curious. I don't get, blown out by someone's emotions. So I think that's an incredible thing to offer our partners, is the ability to feel our own feelings, because it makes us better at like being with theirs.
Yeah. How do, other than punching pillows and, crying in isolation, like what are some ways that men can get more in touch with their feelings? Because this has definitely been a journey for me. Like I'm great at feeling super like happy and joy and like anger, but like I fight fear and sadness and like right. I fight the kind of the opposite spectrum of joy and happiness with like anger or avoidance.
Yeah, totally, man. Well, I think most men can feel, and one place we can look for evidence of that is men can get very, like non-emotional men can get very emotional with their sporting events. They can really very tearful when they have a favorite football player or golfer or whatever that they're way into, and they watch this incredible game or the Olympics or something, and we can cry, right? We move to tears sometimes. We see that too with professional athletes. They cry in the end zone, or they cry with the championship ring or whatever. And fans cry also. And then we can go to movies. Like the only place I could cry safely was in movies with the lights turned down, right? Right, exactly.
That's me. I cry so easily during anything. Like it's just like, it's like a safe place for me to feel.
Yeah, exactly. So the way we can go, okay, I can feel in some of these places where it's maybe a little more okay. And then the next risk we want to take is with another person. And a men's group can be an amazing place to feel some emotions, or with your partner, or of course a therapist, a coach, where we actually can look at someone. And this one of the scariest things I remember ever doing with my therapist early on when I first started therapy was looking in her eyes while I was crying. It was fucking brutal. I just was so ashamed, and I just wanted to look away, and I was so scared. Because again, a lot of us have memories in our body that the last time I cried as a 3-year-old, it didn't go well. Like I got hit, I got made fun of, I got shamed. So we're sort of thinking something bad's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a wonderful place to explore a more intimate connection with friends and a partner, is to allow ourselves to be seen in our most vulnerable moments. And if we ready, we can just take responsibility. We can look in the person's eyes and say, you know what, I'm not ready. I'm too scared. I'm protecting myself. I have a wall up. Because sometimes the first step is actually just to acknowledge how guarded we are and how scared we are.
Yeah. In my own work this past year, I've been working like with an EFT coach on emotional freedom, and just being able to cry in front of him, like why we're doing this deep work, I feel has made me more capable of being in a wide variety of emotions with my wife, in front of my wife, whether it's, just holding space for her being in those emotions, or showing that I'm in those emotions with her. So
that's sweet.
Yeah. And I think that's the point I kind of want to draw out is it is not like weak for men to seek outside help to become better men. Yeah.
I mean, we could say that on every billboard everywhere, because so many men, I think the opposite. So it's great to remind men that it's actually strength to feel and be vulnerable. Reframing vulnerability as strength rather than as a weakness. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And one other, you mentioned the men wanting to fix it. And as a, type A overachiever, that was me for a large part of our relationship. I would be like, well, here's the solution. And then, through relationship coaching, I started to learn, I think she just wants me to be there and listen, and I don't need to say anything. So one of the things we started doing a few years ago is just asking each other when the other person's kind of in a, highly elevated emotional state, do you want me to just listen, or would you like feedback? Mm-hmm. And then recently, another friend said to me, maybe an even better version of it is, would you like comfort, or do you want me to give you feedback? And I really thought that was quite beautiful. I was like, okay, cool. My wife just wants me to be here. Yeah. Listen, that's easy.
Totally. And then over time, 5 years, 10 years, you, I think, should know, and you don't even need to ask. And ideally you're just, most of us, and I'm not just talking about women, most of us want to be seen and felt in our experience before solutions, before even comfort or a hug, or it's just I see that in my kids, and I certainly wouldn't ask my kids, do you want a hug or do you want feedback? It's just, I just show up as a dad. I'm the leader, right? I'm not asking them to lead. So I give them empathy. I give them validation. I show them that I give a shit about their feelings and I'm here. And then it starts to become intuitive what to do next. And a lot of children don't need a lot of processing. It's just as soon as they feel safe they let out a discharge of emotion or whatever, they're right on to playing, and they're talk about it. What are you talking about? Let's just go play. Whereas adults, obviously it's a little different for us. Sometimes we might need to process it now, and I might say, can I offer you a suggestion? But that typically doesn't go well in my marriage, so I just don't even go there. She'll ask, she just asks when she's like, can I get some feedback over here? Then she'll ask.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good to know. It's almost like training, right? When you first start training in any sport or, weightlifting or whatever, you really have to pay attention to kind of like the structure, instructions, and the movement. But then as you do it more and more, you get more and more intuitive. And so just to know that, like, hey, maybe in 5-10 years, I'm not even going to have to ask my wife that. I'll just know intuitively. Yeah. I'll be so kind of emotionally connected and mature with her that I will be able to like read it. Whereas right now I kind of feel like, you know, I'm not very intelligent. It's like, does she want feedback or does she want me to just listen?
Man, and it 6 years, it really does. So you're right on time here. Like it takes quite a bit of time for couples to figure this out, to like, what do you really need in this moment? And what do I really need? And a lot of us don't even know ourselves here. Like under stress, it's like, I don't fucking know what I need, especially the more avoidant types. They're like, in their mind, they don't have needs. So they're like, I don't need anything. Like, leave me alone. But they actually do. They need all kinds of things. Mostly they need empathy and care and your presence and, you know, just connection. And that really helps them. It helps all of us.
Yeah. So let's dig a little bit into conflict styles. Knowing that, like, we're going to get into conflict with our significant other. It's going to happen. Yep. We know it's going to happen. What are the different styles of conflict that people tend to have?
Yeah, so this is kind of based loosely off the fight, flight, freeze sort of that we all hear about these days with the brain. And it's basically, I call it posture, collapse, seek, avoid. And if we think posture is like going up, collapse is going down, seek is maybe to the right, avoid is to the left, doesn't really matter. But these are kind of 4 different directions. And posture is like, the people that get more aggressive and loud and want to fight about it. That's more of the posture. And some people grew up in families like that where it was like lots of yelling, and other people collapse. They get quiet and shut down. And then there's seekers who are more anxious and they want to talk about it, and they feel afraid that it's going to get worse, and they feel afraid the other person's going to go away. So they pursue. And then the avoiders are just, they want to withdraw and retreat and just go to their room and just kind of get the hell out. So, and some of us have a combo of all of these. People tend to gravitate towards 1 or 2. And it's just good to know. And it's really a wiring in your nervous system. It's not, again, a pathology here. It's not bad or wrong. This is just what happens to your nervous system, your social mammal, if you will, under stress by another person. If you're stressed and triggered by another person, what do you do? Posture, collapse, seek, or avoid? Or which combo? And we can educate our partners about that, and it can be really useful and not make each other wrong for that. And there is association with the attachment styles too.
Yeah. So as I'm reading your book and I'm like really looking at this in my own life, and I'm trying to understand how this plays out in different types of relationship. So with my wife, I think I'm pretty good at, you know, having an approachable form of seeking. Like when we have a breakdown, like I want to kind of move through it as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And we've developed some great tools for that.
Yeah.
One of them, literally, we just have the simple practice where when we realize we're both in breakdown, we say, do you want to do I love you, I'm sorry? And we just literally hold each other's hands, look into each other's, and say, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. Yeah. And then the other partner repeats it back, and we usually do it about 3 times or till we feel that emotional release where it's like, okay, the conflict has been released. But that's what I do with my wife. And the reason I'm asking this or bringing this up is with my mom, and like, I love my mom. She's incredible, but I just avoid. Like, I just like, I'll go for weeks, months, etc. Like, you know, without like, you know, I'll just try to like avoid.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm just like, so like, is that normal for you to have like one type of kind of dominant one in one relationship and then another one in another type of relationship?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the stakes are different with your mother than your wife. So there's that. And then obviously the love is different because a partner is different than a parent. So, you know, these nuances matter in terms of just getting to know ourselves and like, I do conflict differently with mom than I do with my wife or dad. It's fine. You just got to get to know yourself. And okay, if you avoid with your mom, do you and your mom have the kind of relationship where you could call yourself forward there and say, Mom, you know, I notice I avoid you a lot. When things get hard, I kind of want to just not talk to you, want to make you wrong, whatever. A lot of our mothers couldn't actually handle that level of a intimate conversation because they don't have the tools, or they're like, what are you talking about? So again, you got to know your own mother, but there can be opportunities there, right, to deepen with your mother.
Yeah.
And to get to know yourself there. But if it's more of your mom's just going to be your mom and she's kind of neurotic like my mom, and she's never going to change, I don't enroll my mom in conversations like this, right?
Yeah.
It's a waste of time. But I learn how to work through my own triggers in relationships with my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and usually that's without her.
That's really good to point out. I think I'm super fortunate. Like my mom, is a psychotherapist. So like
Nice.
I'm able to be like,
oh, that's cool.
Like,
Yeah.
Mom, like when I get triggered by you, I just want to avoid you. And like I'm working, I'm now, shortly turning 41, and I'm just like, I'm working really hard to work through my shit.
Yeah.
And so like when I realize I'm avoiding, it's like, then I'll be like, all right, come on, let's grow, Justin.
Yeah.
Like reach out to Mom and you can just say to her, hey, I've been avoiding you because like I'm emotionally triggered.
Yeah.
And I can get emotionally triggered about all sorts of things with my mom just because there's like that parent-child relationship. It's like if she's going through a tough time, like I shut down because like I don't want my mom to be in danger or like unhappy. And it's just like ridiculous. But I'm finding that the more I'm kind of open and honest about what I do and stepping into that uncomfortable place of like kind of recognition and then taking action within that space, it's starting to really empower me to like, okay, I don't need to avoid my mom. Like I can just be like, I can feel that urge.
Yeah.
And then I can push through and say like, hey Mom, I'm feeling this urge. How can I be here for you?
That's so cool. Yeah. My son and daughter, obviously, both parents are like psychotherapist, coach type people. So I'll have to pick your brain of what that was like sometime.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'll just tell you right off the bat, because I feel like both my parents are super into like personal development and spiritual growth and all that. And so I was able to, I feel like the reason I have the marriage that I have and the life I have is I'm standing on their shoulders, the work that they did.
So cool.
Because it doesn't matter how good of a job they did. No parent is going to like, my younger brother has kids and he said to me one time, it doesn't matter how good of a parent you are, your kids are going to resent you for something. And I was like, you're so right.
Yeah. And they're going to have their own issues no matter how good of a parent you are, et cetera. So yeah.
Yeah. And I was listening to one of your recent podcast interviews and you were kind of talking about like how that is done in a family. Like, how do you set up that rules of engagement in a family? So I'm like, I don't have children, but I'm thinking like, how can I like be more proactive with my parents and my brothers, like as kind of a leader in the growth and evolution of our family dynamic? Because I feel like you have some really good rules of engagement within your family unit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you share some of those with me?
Yeah, sure. So we have, family values. We have kind of rules of engagement, if you will, are like, look, we don't let things fester here.
Okay.
So if things aren't at zero, like we like living and being in a family where the shit is at zero, right? The baseline in our home is like, we're excited to come home because it feels good. And it's like, it feels resourcing and connective and everybody can get their needs met here. So my wife and I don't tolerate like moping around and like being mad at each other with the kids or whatever. It's like, look, clearly you're upset. Like, let's work through this with our kids, or if our kids get in a fight, they know mom and dad are like hawks, we're going to come in and help them work it out. Like, okay, what'd you do? Take responsibility, do all our tools. And they, I think, really appreciate it. They're now 14 and 12, and they often report how no one at school takes responsibility for anything. All the kids are just blaming each other and saying it wasn't me. And my kids are like, Jesus, it's such a waste of time because it's so easy to just say, I did it and like move on. Like adults actually really appreciate kids who are like, yeah, I take responsibility. That was my bad. But, they're growing up in different family cultures. So that's probably the biggest one, is not tolerating the kind of unresolved conflicts. We're really into nature. So getting outside and doing things together, like resourcing, snuggling, all the things. And one of us will tag team if one of our kids is really upset. My wife or myself will go be with them until it's done. And it might impact dinner, and it might, because I think relationship is probably our highest value as a family. So relationship comes before everything else.
Yeah. Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. Today's show is brought to you by Fit Rich Vegan. If you're ready to get in the best shape of your life, double your income, and 10x your savings and investments, then this is the coaching program for you. But wait a minute, Dragon. Isn't this your coaching program? Heck yeah, it is. I spent the last 8 years mastering my fitness and my finances, and I've built an incredible coaching program with an incredible team to help you get the body of your dreams and finally achieve that level of financial success that you've been seeking. So if you want to find out if you're a good fit for the program, go to fitrichvegan.com and book your free consultation today. Or you can just DM me on Instagram with the words Fit Rich Vegan, and we can chat about if it's going to be a good fit for you. I'm committed to empowering people to actually achieve their fitness and financial goals. I spent the last 20 years trying to figure this out on my own. And what I realized is the key to doing it is not doing it alone. You have to have coaches, you have to have mentors, and you have to be a part of masterminds. And that's exactly what Fit Rich Vegan has. It has coaches, mentors, and it is a mastermind. So again, if you're ready to book your free consultation today, go to fitrichvegan.com or drop me a DM on Instagram. So I'm curious, let's say somebody has a mother or father who's not really interested in doing like the work, right?
Yeah.
But that kind of dynamic is something that needs to be worked on in order to kind of make the current marriage like continue to grow and heal. And I'm just thinking, because I'm thinking, like, I know plenty of people have parents who are just not interested in doing the work.
Yeah.
So like, how can that person do their work in order to kind of, continue to evolve their own marriage?
Yeah. I mean, so let's say people our age have issues with their parents. And a lot of people the default setting is to try to change your parents, try to convince them to read this book or come to therapy or come on, mom, can we have this conversation or can you, and what the impact of that on your parents is they often feel judged and not accepted as they are, and that they need to be different in order to get your love. And so people do this with partners also all the time. So I just recommend, look, the goal here is to get to thank you, I love you with your parents. That's it. It's just that simple. Thanks, mom and dad, for doing it just the way you did. And then people are like, yeah, but I grew up in the family. My fucking dad was hitting me, or my dad was absent, or my mom was alcoholic and depressed. And what do you mean, thank her? I'm like, well, look, if you do the work, you start to realize your parents and their bullshit created the causes and conditions for you to have the traumas you had so that you can become who you are and have a mission and a purpose in life that will help a lot of fucking people. Like, for example, in my family, my parents were awesome. I love my parents very much. And they were a little misattuned. They weren't relationally sensitive. My dad was very emotionally shut down. So there was impact over here. So you could say there was a pretty big relationship injury and chronically with me and my parents. Well, guess what? That relationship injury gave me my life purpose. I help people with their relationships, right? So why would I be pissed at my parents? They gave me this, consciously or unconsciously. I don't care. Like, I'm grateful for what I went through so that I could be doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. You literally just gave me goosebumps, dead serious, because I've really taken on the belief that, I'm going to get a little esoteric, that our souls or our spirit choose our parents in order to do the work that we're meant to do here.
Yeah, sure.
And that's exactly like what you're basically saying is like, because of my parents, I have found my calling. Yeah. And my way to make a positive dent in the world. That has deep heart and meaning to you. So, and then you're able to recontextualize like, fuck yeah, I'm glad they fucking have those problems because it like gave me purpose.
Exactly.
And, this helps me kind of understand my own journey. So, one of my parents struggled with, body and food stuff their entire life. And, now I'm a fitness coach. And, both parents struggled severely with money. And now I'm a money coach. And I'm so passionate about it because it was so fucking painful for me growing up with those challenges within my family.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we can get to a place if we do our work without asking our parents to do a thing different. We can get to our place of gratitude, genuine, like, thanks, like, wow, I see it. And that takes years, usually. It's not like a one and done thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
Question about being a victim versus what you call being an author in your book. Is it possible to avoid being a victim?
I don't think so. What we can do, though, is we can get into relationship with our victim and learn to move out of that victim seat quicker. So to me, it's like, I don't like the things I hear out there online sometimes about, oh, stop being a victim. You're just a victim. Get over your victimhood. And it's like, no. It's really appropriate to feel like a victim. Like if I punched you in the face right now, you feel like a victim, right?
Yeah.
Or if I got hit by a car tomorrow and I got debilitated, I'd feel like a fucking victim. Like someone crashed into me and now I'm a victim of a car accident. That's just true, right? And that allows me to go, okay, I'm in a stage. I'm just in a stage. I'm in a moment where I feel hurt. This bad thing happened to me. This other person hurt me. Someone cheated on me or broke up with me, and here I am. I'm a victim. But as soon as possible, I want to get out of that place. I want to feel my feelings, move through all the feelings, the hurt, the pain, so I'm not avoiding any of it. And I'm like, wow, this happened to me, so that's true. But I don't want to live my life like that.
Yeah.
It's like a valley, like a V standing as a valley, and like you can't see very well when you're in the valley, a victimhood, right? I want to climb out of that, so I, through basic personal growth tools like taking personal responsibility for climbing out of that and learning about things and learning about your pain and learning how to overcome obstacles, you can become an author. You turn that V upside down into an A, and now you're on the mountaintop and you can see a lot better and life is more enjoyable. But in a matter of weeks or years, you're going to get hurt again and you're going to go right back down into that, fall into that hole, or you're going to be a victim, and that's okay. What becomes infuriating and frustrating for people in our lives is when they stay there or we stay there. It's just like, then we have to ask, what are you getting out of this? Like by being a victim, like we all have someone in our lives, it's like they're getting something out of it, And often they get help and they get people rescuing them and telling them, I feel sorry for you, and they get pity, and people don't need that.
Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. This show is brought to you by Feel Free from Botanic Tonics. This product is unlike anything I've ever had before. No joke. It's made with kava root and other ancient plants, and just half a shot gives me this incredible sense of focused flow and productivity. And I love to take just half a shot right before I work out. I take it with my pre-workout, and it takes my workouts to the next level. It is seriously unlike anything I've ever had. It's also an incredible productivity tool for any big work projects that you have, or long periods of time where you just need to be super focused in flow state and get a lot of shit done. So if you want to give this a shot, you can go to botanictonics.com and use code DRAGON at checkout to get 40% off your first order. No joke, 40% off with code DRAGON. That's Feel Free from botanictonics.com, code DRAGON. Feel free, feel good. Yeah, I think it's super empowering to recognize that if you just have the conscious awareness, like, I'm going to go in and out of victimhood and authorship, it's like such a powerful way to play life, because it's like, okay, I feel like a victim. Like, how long do I want to be here?
Yeah.
What are the things I need to do to kind of like emote and kind of like, okay, poor me. Okay, now I'm ready to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And, start having authorship over my life.
Yeah.
And I really love that word authorship, because it makes me think about like, what story are you writing for your life? And do you want to be like, in every great movie, you know, a victim circumstance befalls the main character.
Yep.
And he or she has to climb out of the victim valleyhood and become, like, rewrite the story into like a beautiful ending that's very transformative, right?
Yeah, that inspires us, and that's the hero's journey, right? And there's ups and downs and massive challenges, and we're all facing different challenges in our lives. And it's like, you know, we're the hero of our own story, so let's meet those challenges.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about the relationship school. Like, you know, who's it for? What are the programs like? You know, somebody like me and my wife were interested in doing it. Like, what does it look like?
Cool. So I started a school years ago because I got tired of complaining this isn't taught in high school or college. So I said, all right, I'll just start a school. Little did I know what I was getting into. Yeah, and it's mostly a virtual school where you can take online courses, classes. Pre-COVID, we had in-person events here in Colorado. I've done events in different parts in the country, but mostly here in Colorado. And now, mostly virtual, where you can just learn about becoming a better communicator. You can learn how to listen better. You can learn about how to advocate for your needs. You can learn how to set boundaries. You can learn about how relationships actually work instead of, you know, being stuck in fantasies and fairy tales about how they work. And I think it's also a place where I've created courses that help people become empowered. And I believe that as you become more and more empowered through the vehicle of this hall of mirror of all your relationships in your life, you feel fulfilled, you know? It's that up and down of the journey. You can actually start to embrace that because people are difficult, you're difficult, but can you enjoy the learning process of being a human around other humans and be more effective in that space? And, you know, our people become better parents, they become better bosses and leaders in their communities, better partners, certainly. So we have 9-month-long deep dive courses. That's like the class you should have got in college. We have coach training. So if you want to become a relationship coach, like the person you saw, perhaps. And we have one great couples course that my wife and I did called Relationship Upgrade. That's a cool one. Yeah, so a lot of options. We have a podcast. So there's free learning galore too.
Awesome. Yeah. And kind of last subject I want to hit, just for the people that are maybe less interested in relationships and more focused on themselves. Can you tell us a little bit about being a relational leader?
Yeah. So whether we're all in relationship with other people, and I think it's really attractive to have someone in the room that's the mature person. If shit goes down relationally, there's not a fist fight necessarily, but there's just a snag at work, let's say. There's a communication breakdown between a group of people in a meeting or something that, the relational leader is the person that can handle whatever's going on and can help facilitate a way forward. And that relational leader can also just be a sibling in a grown family. It can be a parent in a family of 5. It could be a partner that leads the couple to a better future because they're learning about themselves. And again, it's just there's so many ways to do personal growth, right? Fitness, money, whatever, inner game stuff, inner psychology. But I love relationships as like a spiritual path because it's in our face every day. And we can use all these mirrors to just become more authentically who we are.
Yeah. I, through my work with my EFT coach and now through your work in your book, I'm like, wow, relationships is like, because they're everywhere. Like, whether you're a coach or you work at a company, or you're a solo entrepreneur, there's people you have to interact with, and it is such a powerful way to learn, heal, grow, and transform if you choose to take it on.
That's right. Yeah.
So, Jayson, any last words of wisdom or requests to the audience or anything that you want to share before we tell people the best place to find you online?
Yeah, I'd say to the listener, you can have the kind of relationships you want, that you long for, where you feel deeply seen and known and understood and cared about and all that. But you've got to co-create that. And the place to look is obviously in the mirror, but that the most difficult part of getting that, like a secure, strong relationship or friendship, is conflict. So you've got to wrap your mind around, how do I get better when there's a challenge between me and who I care about? And if you can get better there, that is the path to becoming not only the relational leader, but to getting a secure, strong partnership or friendship.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on the show, Jayson. Where's the best place for people to connect with you online?
Yeah, any of the social handles. I'm at Jayson Gaddis on YouTube and Instagram, and that's Jayson Gaddis. And our podcast is called the Relationship School Podcast.
Awesome, brother. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Thanks for tuning in. And remember, literally everything can be used as an opportunity to learn, to heal, to grow, and to transform. So whatever is going on in your life, choose to consciously and proactively harness that energy and use it to alchemize your life to the next level. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend or on your favorite social media and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. As always, you can find me at Justin David Carl on Instagram and all the socials, as well as at alchemizelife.com on the web. Until the next time, sending you lots of energy and plenty of dragon magic.